So, two healing and transformative aspects to sex that I think are pretty much on their way out in our modern culture and are getting more and more rare. The first being an experience which initiates a process of leading us towards closer to a quality of innocence within ourselves. So, I think genuine intimacy can do that because, just on kind of a very practical base level, it can really start to peel away the constrictive layers of emotional wounding and baggage and psychological habits and patterns that we've accumulated over the years, mostly and from a defensive position. So when those things unwind, when we are able to reflect on ourselves more deeply and clearly, and thus have more intimacy within ourselves, then hopefully that can actually initiate more self-awareness, more conscience, and more empathy for our own experience, and then thereby a quality that we can then share and extend out into other people that we encounter. But obviously, if we are just, our sexual expression is just porn or meaningless, empty hookups or casual whatever, or we are someone that is just engaged in exploring all the deviance and all the perversion and every single appetite desire that we could possibly have, then it's very unlikely that it's really going to have that positive effect on the heart. In actuality, it tends to have the opposite effect on the heart, meaning we tend to go more towards perversion, more towards defensiveness, more towards delusion, more towards just indulging any of our appetites and losing any regulatory qualities or losing any of the restraint that we should naturally have on the lower aspects of our organism, i.e. appetite control. And just there's a massive societal trend right now. If you don't believe me, that doesn't seem weird. Just look at the media, reflect on how things have changed over the last 20 years. Look at the massive exponential increase in porn consumption across all age demographics, and then look at the massive increase in the kind of diverted or sort of diluted, deviant, violent, aggressive, crazy porn that's come out. Meaning, like at one point maybe it was just kind of a little more romantic, and then now in modern times there's just more and more sort of deviances from that. So I'm not saying this is the only thing and the only thing that people should do. Obviously, I'm also a proponent, despite everything I've said, of just individual free right and free will. So, whatever you want to do, as long as you're not hurting someone else, then whatever. It's not my business, it's not my life, don't really care. But for me personally, this process that I just talked about is something that I think is a little more relevant and a little more useful for people that are interested in personal growth and development, and something that is being gradually diminished over the course of time. And I think intimacy is something that not a lot of people are really have within themselves and not necessarily able to experience within other contexts of relating to other people or the world. So the second aspect that I talked about is the actual release quality within the nervous system, and being able to be in a calm or a comfortable or receptive enough state to actually have that full release happen. So like I said, people being hyper visually stimulated for porn and things like that, very unlikely to have it. Or people are having these kind of empty, meaningless hookups and connections and dating apps and social media and all of these things that's moving them further and further away from it. And especially if you're already in a pretty emotionally wound up, distorted place, that's basically just a reflection of the quality of your nervous system, because that is your interface from what you actually feel in the world and what you actually experience. So thereby you're really not going to be able to get that release, which then these two things together kind of set up a negative feedback loop where it's like you get further removed from actual, cleaning your heart out or removing emotional layers and defensiveness and baggage and all of those things in a real, literal, tangible way. And you're moving away from that mechanism, and your nervous system thereby can't really release. So you're just having pressure build up through consuming all this media and whatever stimulation from other people, but there's no actual outlet. So the nervous system really just starts to get irritated and shredded out over time, or you just require more and more stimulation. because I can tell you many stories of people that I've met over the years, and I just am shocked at what is kind of normal now. Amount of people that need all this extra stimulation because they can't actually have that from human to human, whether it's visual in their head or through a screen or through devices or toys or gimmicks or just trying crazier and crazier things to kind of always up the ante. This is not really the direction I think people would want to go in if they are interested in genuine health, personal development, transformation, growth, and all of these things, because it's kind of like saying, I want to go to the North Pole because I heard it's warm there. It's like, well, it's a contradiction of terms. It's the complete opposite. But if you think it is, it's just we live in kind of the 1984 Brave New World where everything is kind of flipped and upside down. So anyways, hopefully this makes sense and is some food for thought, and I'll talk to you soon.